So, good morning, friends, and once again, welcome. So, we continue expanding our horizons, as far as our understanding of diaspora is concerned. And that's why, um, like the previous few classes, I would again, talk about some of the uh, concepts related to diaspora. And it's very important for us to understand them because there are very fine differences actually, but nonetheless these differences are there. And as researchers, as the students of diaspora, we need to be clear about it, or otherwise we may be making some such mistakes of always interchangeably using them, although there are conceptually they are different. So, in the last class, we talked about acculturation, deculturation, and assimilation. Let me make the difference between these three similar sounding or the terms that are very closely associated with diaspora, uh, at least as stages of adaptation. So, if we make the difference between the three, we'll find that these three concepts are mutually inclusive, but still they are different. So, acculturation, on the one hand, refers to cultural exchange and adaptation, and it affects the original culture in that it is partially retained, and basically the subjects always adapt to the superficial cultural norms of the host society. While deculturation, the other day we discussed it, it is loss of native culture, and it may be under some sad circumstances. It may be that people may be forced by the colonial powers or the power dynamics to leave behind their culture and adapt to a new culture altogether. And the effect is that there is almost a significant loss of the original culture, while assimilation, as I said, like the idea of a melting pot, it calls for full integration into a new culture. So, in this sense, it is believed that you have moved away from your original culture and you have fully assimilated to a new culture. So, please remember these three key terms. Um, let's say migrations result in what is called plural society, because we find that several societies, you know, come together to, you know, exist side by side. So, people from different cultural backgrounds come and live together in a diverse society, and obviously, they don't live on equal terms. So, there are chances of discrimination, you know, based on race, uh, class, gender, and caste in India, but not abroad. So discriminations are always there because we find that some of the minority groups face more discrimination compared to others, and these also depend on the material conditions of these diasporic groups and the circumstances which have led to their migration to a host country. So we might also realize that this kind of discrimination is because of the competition, and it could be due to conflict or competition, which can sow cracks in the social process of cooperation. So when the native population finds that the diasporic community is making rapid strides in business and in other walks of life, and is visibly dominant, obviously the native culture or native people will uh, react to that, and they will try to discriminate them. So whenever there are economic crises, let's say the economy of a country breaks down, then these minorities are held responsible for this, and the anger of the native population is directed towards them. Let's say if in US there is lot of unemployment and the local youth are not getting enough jobs, then obviously they will uh, react very sharply uh, against the diasporic community or the migrant laborers, because they will believe that they are the people who are taking all their jobs, rendering them jobless. So in that case also there are chances of uh, non appreciation and discrimination towards the other groups, like it has happened with Indians in Europe who have been victims of such discrimination. And I'm sure this is a natural reflex action by the people, so this is not something which is unique to Indian community in Europe or African community in the US. This is something which is always there, and this is both at the micro level and the macro level. Within our country also we find sometimes um, the people of a particular state, they react against all those people who have migrated from other states and are doing well in their state, believing that they are responsible for their joblessness and their poverty or anything for that matter. So when such individuals are confronted with derogatory, unpleasant remarks and some sort of unforeseen discrimination, the scattered members of the ethnic group gather, conduct informal meetings, and decide to establish associations. So, we need to understand that the vulnerabilities bring us closer compared to prosperity. We all have seen how the entire human race came together to fight that unknown virus, the COVID 19. So whenever there are vulnerabilities, these minority groups also come together, form associations so that they can safeguard themselves and their interests. So creating association becomes necessary for them in order to retain their cultural security, at the same time their job security and their safety in the host country. So if you are in number, probably you can save yourself more, and so that's why the difference becomes bigger when the host society uses terms of we and they, and turns very discriminatory against all minority diasporic groups. Ethnicity refers to a shared sense of identity, culture, and heritage among a group of people who have been dispersed from their homeland to the other parts of the world. And that's why people are also discriminated against based on their ethnic identity. So, these people share the same history, origin, ancestry, and are part of collective consciousness of the homeland. So, please remember these terms when we talk about pluralism. Pluralism is a concept that refers to the acceptance, acknowledgement, and celebration of diversities. So, throughout our discussion on diaspora, we are, coming across many such terms that call for celebration of diversity, that call for better engagement of different communities and different ethnicities together, so that they can remain happy and productive. So, pluralism as a concept again is an idealistic proposition, I would say, because there is nowhere a society which is ideal in all respects, where people don't have any kind of discriminatory feeling or bias for the other people. But nonetheless, this is something which has really helped us uh, trying and build a society where everybody is welcome despite all the differences and diversities. So these diversities, uh, that are welcome in pluralism might refer to cultural diversity, political diversity, religious diversity, ethnic diversity, or philosophical diversity, and so on and so forth. So according to Ravuska and Sefsley, plural society may be considered to comprise, and I quote, two or more elements or social orders which live side by side yet without mingling in one political unity unit. So heterogeneity is acknowledged and appreciated. So this is an idea that a society is made up of many different groups, like different religions, cultures, political opinions, and social classes, and that all of them should be allowed to coexist, have a voice, and influence society. And it can show up in different areas, as I said, like in politics. There may be multiple parties, interest groups, and viewpoints competing and cooperating at the same time. In the parlance of culture, there may be different traditions, languages, and ways of life that exist side by side together. In religion, various religious beliefs being accepted in the same society. So, at its heart, pluralism values diversity and dialogue instead of forcing everyone into one way of thinking. So, if we elaborate on this, um, we can also talk about some of the real life examples. For instance, we always talk about India being a multicultural society. I am sure when you go through this lecture, you will uh, understand that India is a truly pluralistic society. It practices pluralism more than multiculturalism as a concept. So that's why it's very important for us to make the differences, the fine differences that lie between these different terms. So India is one of the finest examples of pluralism, as we have many religions like Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Sikhism, Buddhism, Jainism, and hundreds of languages and ethnic groups. And despite all these differences, the Indian constitution guarantees freedom of religion, and the culture overall encourages different groups to maintain their traditions while being part of the larger society. Another example may be United States, where people of different races, religions, and political beliefs live together. Even though it's not always a perfect society, as I told you earlier, this concept itself is too idealistic to be realistic. But nonetheless, this is something that has to be always aimed at if a society has to grow and coexist peacefully. So, the whole idea of the US being a melting pot, or more recently a salad bowl, reflects pluralism, different pieces retaining their uniqueness but coexisting. So, pluralism is a concept which is slightly different from multiculturalism, because multiculturalism is more about recognizing and celebrating differences without necessarily pushing for much integration. So, it like saying, hey, all cultures are welcome here and everyone should keep their traditions, but it does not always expect them to mix much. So it is, uh, you are living together, you have respective freedom as well, but then you are confined to your own sphere. You are practicing your own religion and um, all other identities, but you are not mixing much. So what is lacking in multiculturalism and is existent in pluralism is the dynamic exchange or engagement of different cultures and communities. So for example, we can say that a busy marketplace where everyone is talking, trading, arguing, and figuring things out together is an example of pluralism. On the other hand, a museum of cultures where different traditions are respected and displayed, but they don't necessarily interact much, is an example of multiculturalism. Both are about diversity, no doubt, but pluralism is a bit more lively and about ongoing engagement. So, that is why pluralism is preferable to multiculturalism. If we talk about uh, an example, as I said, India and USA provide us the best examples of pluralism, where diversity is not only welcome and respected, rather, the different cultures enter into some kind of dynamic exchange, and there is lot of engagement between these different uh, groups. But when we talk about multiculturalism, the country that comes to my mind is Canada, which officially embraces multiculturalism. It's even part of their government policy, and we find that different communities like Punjabi, Haitian, Chinese, indigenous, etc., they are encouraged to preserve their language, religions, and customs. You can live in Canada, keep speaking your language, native language at home, celebrate your own festivals, and still be considered fully Canadian. So, sometimes critics say that multiculturalism can lead to communities staying separate and not really connecting with each other, and that is why it is always preferable to have pluralism alongside multiculturalism. Okay, so it would also if we talk about pluralism, it would also push more for dialogue, cooperation, and mutual influence between the groups. So you know pluralism as a concept always tries to make sure that different communities don't only exist together but also talk to each other regularly and collaborate on projects, share in public celebrations, negotiate their differences more directly. So, friends, if we have to talk about these two terms, pluralism and multiculturalism, I am sure now you will be able to make out the difference. So, when you talk about multiculturalism, you are still talking about valuing the cultural diversity, but when you talk about pluralism, you are talking about not only maintaining and supporting the cultural and other diversities, but rather making these diversities and diverse experiences count, in that all the different cultures and different diverse groups should enter into some kind of dynamic exchange, negotiation, and engagement, certainly contributing more and more to the whole process. The next concept is that of a global citizen, and the Cambridge Dictionary defines it, and this is clear to us as well. Somebody who is truly cosmopolitan, somebody who belongs to the entire globe rather than belonging to one particular country, may be called a global citizen. And such people are certainly globe trotters, in that they are moving from one place to another, and they have a broader view of humanity, and all their loyalty and support is for the entire globe, entire human race, rather than confining it to one particular uh, nation state. Having said that, it does not mean that to become a global citizen one has to forego one's citizenship of a particular nation or country. So, Cambridge Dictionary defines global citizen as a person who feels loyalty and support for the world as a whole as much as for the particular country in which they live. In other words, a global citizen is an individual who identifies with being part of a broader global community beyond their national or local community. So, local community and identity are given secondary place. Obviously, if you have a very broad mind, you will not certainly go by your narrow concepts of identity and citizenship. And such people care about global issues like poverty, climate change, inequality, education, human rights, and they always feel responsible for helping solve them rather than just talking about the people of their own country. They act beyond borders in that they don't only think how does this affect my country, but how does this affect people everywhere. So global citizens are those people who don't send down their firm roots or loyalty to one place. Rather, they believe that the entire world, vasudhaiva kutumbakam, the entire world is my family. So, in Indian literature, we long back, considered it a policy, and we keep on, repeating it, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That means the entire world is our own kutum, our own family, and we should care about the entire world rather than, being too narrow in our thinking. So, such people, have uh, their reach beyond their country. And if I was to give you some examples of global citizens, if someone in France donates to help build schools in Kenya, speaks up about human rights abuses in Myanmar, or works to fight climate change because it affects everyone, we can say that they are acting like global citizens, and they are not only concerned about what is happening in their own country, rather they are talking about the fate of the entire globe. The next concept that I would like to introduce is alienation. All of us know about it. It refers to the feeling of disconnection, isolation, and estrangement experienced by individuals or groups who have been displaced from their homeland or cultural roots. And this is something that figures prominently in most of the diasporic texts. The feeling of alienation results in powerlessness, meaninglessness, cultural estrangement, self estrangement, and social isolation. So, alienation is not only a physical phenomenon, it is also a psychological phenomenon because it impacts people overall, their thinking, their perception, their decision making, their way of living. It impacts everything, and people feel that they don't belong to a people, to a place, to a culture. And there comes a situation where they feel alienated from themselves as well. So, alienation is very, very important when we try to make sense of the narratives of diaspora, because people after people will find suffer alienation because they move away from their familiar world, familiar people, familiar culture, and land in a culture or amidst the people or physical circumstances that are not at all familiar to them. So that leads to this feeling of disconnection, isolation, and estrangement, leading to alienation. The next term that I would like to introduce is incipient diaspora. These are the groups that are in process of becoming, or that hold the potential to become diaspora. They are called incipient diasporas. So, Sefer defines it as the new ethno national groups that either are on the verge of becoming fully established permanent diasporas, or are still in the early stages of development. Then we can also talk about borderland migration. Now, borderland migration is different from the concept of diaspora, in the sense movement of people across neighboring regions or national borders don't cause the same kind of dislocation and alienation, simply because they have been living in the same area, and more or less they have lot of intersecting experiences that don't really bring a drastic change in their lives when they cross the borders. So borderland migration refers to movement of people across neighboring regions or national borders, and the migration takes place between neighboring countries across a single border that is shared by the homeland and the host land. And if we talk about diaspora and borderland migration, as I said, they are different in the sense, while the people of diaspora move far away from their homeland and land in a country which is completely different from their own country, the borderland migration happens between two countries that share their border, and already there is lot of exchange between the people. The Sometimes the language may be the same, the culture may be the same. Let's say if people from the border areas of India migrate to Myanmar, or the people from Myanmar migrate to India, culturally there will be no significant difference. And again, uh, the reason will also be almost the same. So there will be lot in common that will result in uh, easy settling down for these people, compared to those people who migrate from a completely different place. So diaspora is a movement of people away from their homeland to different parts of the world, as I said, and it happens due to forced displacement, economic opportunities, education, trade, persecution, etc. There are some other reasons behind that as well. It spreads across countries and retains a hybrid identity, as we have seen. If we talk about borderland migration, movement of people is mainly across neighboring regions or national borders. It mostly happens due to war, partition, border disputes, ethnic conflicts, climate change, seasonal migration, etc. And this migration is limited to border regions between two or more nations, and it retains a mix of cultures from both sides of the border. And so the same kind of alienation and discrimination is not found in this case. However, the policies of the countries might certainly come into play when such migrations happen. So there is another term called diaspora capital. What does it refer to? It refers to the collective financial, intellectual, social, and cultural resources that are contributed by a country's diaspora. And we talked about it a lot, how the Indian diasporic community has been contributing substantially to the progress of the nation by sending remittances across, by initiating and perpetuating the ties, the economic ties, the political ties with the other countries. by acting as soft power in the host country, initiating policy changes uh, in favor of their home nations, and so on and so forth. So, this diaspora capital, if we talk about India, is a huge bonus for us, in the sense, we are one of the most important countries in terms of getting remittances, in that we are getting the most of it from our diasporic community. And not only that, our government has tried to establish a dynamic exchange with the diasporic community by organizing many such events inside the country and outside the country. We have already talked about it. Uh, no India program, the other programs, the NRI Day, and many such programs are organized almost every year, so that the diasporic community can remain in better touch with the homeland. So our diaspora capital certainly is helping us in a big way, because you know we are benefiting from it intellectually, financially, socially, and culturally as well. So it is playing a very significant role in our economic growth, and at the same time is contributing to our increasing global visibility and global influence. So, if we talk about diaspora capital, it can be divided into four types, like financial capital, which refers to remittances, foreign direct investment (FDI), philanthropy, etc. Lot of diasporic people, are indulging in philanthropic ventures and helping out the impoverished or needy section of the society in our country. It can also be human capital, like knowledge transfer, technology exchange, skill development, etc. So we find that there is lot of exchange between, let's say, the knowledge professionals from India who are living abroad and working in the best of universities and are involved in cutting edge technological research and development, and the Indian counterparts. Like in IIT, we always go for such exchanges, and we go and deliver lectures and share our knowledge to those universities abroad. And we call our global counterparts, and mostly, they are Indian professors who have been working abroad, and it's very very important for them also to remain connected with their home country. So they always willingly accept our invites, come and share their knowledge. So it also acts as a human capital. It acts as a social capital, like global networking, soft power, diplomacy. They are helping India grow and shine across the world uh, through its communities abroad. It also acts as a cultural capital, like by spreading our own language, culture, traditions, heritage, etc. So it does not surprise us anymore that we go to any city in the US and we find a yoga hall there, and we find people, practicing yoga, pranayama, and the ISKCON temples are there, and people, participate in developing Krishna consciousness. So, and lot of our Bollywood movies are watched and appreciated globally, and that way, uh, the diasporic community is also acting as a cultural capital, propagating Indian culture abroad. So there is another term that has come up recently, Dalit diaspora. Although it looks very different from all our concepts of diaspora, because in India certainly uh, casteism has always been an integral part of our social setup. And uh, Dalit literature, Dalit consciousness has uh, come into discussion in a big way. But coining these terms like Dalit and diaspora, certainly in the first place, looks very different. And but it refers to the migration of Dalits to different parts of the world. And as per Kumar, Dalit diasporas were and are facing caste discrimination in the host countries as well. So, caste discrimination sometime back I said happens in India, but according to this concept, the caste discrimination happens abroad as well. But then, uh, please mind it that this kind of discrimination is practiced within the Indian community, not outside it, because the outside people don't know about these caste differences. So Kumar divides the migration of Dalits into two categories. Like he says, old Dalit diaspora, it comprises indentured laborers and assisted laborers who are taken by the colonial powers and the contractors to different countries. This diaspora is confined to South Asian and African countries. And we found that since lot of people were taken from India belonging to different castes, and they continued to practice the same kind of caste difference even in those countries, although although uh, it is not like India, it is not as rigid like India. And now gradually we have seen that this kind of discrimination has also diminished over time, in that there is more cultural mixing and interracial marriages, as I uh, talked about in my earlier class with reference to Fiji. So old Dalit diaspora, refers to those Dalits who are taken alongside people of other castes to the other countries as indentured laborers, and they continue to face the same kind of discrimination by their own people even in those countries. Then there is a new Dalit diaspora. This new Dalit diaspora includes semi literate and professionally trained Dalits who have immigrated, especially to London and the US, as industrial laborers, technicians, and professionals and students. So Kumar further states that, and I quote, caste identities were are strong within the Indian diaspora, which restrict the interaction pattern of non Dalit with the Dalit diaspora. Friends, we need to understand one thing, that the people who migrate from their country, abroad, they are much more closer to their culture because they want to protect it at all cost. And maybe in that, the cultural weaknesses are also protected. And that is the reason, when the Indian society itself has moved on, and now the caste discriminations have eased off a lot, we still find that the diasporic communities that migrated long back, at a time when Indian society was completely casteist, continues to follow that caste system in some way or the other. This is how Kumar concludes. So, friends, in this particular lecture, we talked about many more concepts related to diaspora, like pluralism, multiculturalism, alienation, um, discrimination, incipient diaspora, global diaspora, and then we talked about Dalit diaspora as well. Please remember these terms when we move ahead, because they will play a very significant role in our understanding of the diasporic communities and the diasporic narratives. These are the references. Thank you very much. Let's continue our discussion in the next class. Thank you.